So I talk a lot about alt season and what I'm investing into in the crypto market, but I think most people completely misunderstand my strategy or how I'm investing into the crypto market. And to be honest, I think most people in general really don't know how to invest into crypto and actually make money. So in this video, I'll show you how I'm allocating my portfolio across three different strategies or three different buckets in the crypto space. On top of this, I'll share some backup strategies. There's some strategies that I don't personally use myself, but that are like valid approaches to the market. And I'll be sharing why one of the most popular strategies for investing in the crypto space actually carries a massive risk that most people aren't aware of. They don't even think about, but ultimately results in like 90% of people who are applying the strategy losing their shirt by the end of the cycle. And if you're one of those people who maybe lost a lot of money after the 2021 cycle, or maybe repeatedly loses in crypto on a consistent basis, and you can't figure out why you keep losing and other people keep winning, this video is for you. Let's dive in. Okay, before we get started, I put a lot of work into these videos. I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into my research and everything I'm doing in the crypto space. If you could just hit that like button, that would really help me out. I think, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But if you could do it, I would I would appreciate it. Okay, so I mentioned I have three different buckets that I kind of allocate my different strategies in the crypto space into. And I'm gonna start with the first one, which is the number one strategy that most people confuse when they watch my content or listen to me talk about a token, etc. And this is my alt season bucket for tokens. And basically because everyone kind of invests different in the crypto space, when people hear me talk about a play, they always think of it in like a different manner. So there's people that play in meme coins a lot and they're used to like, they buy a token one day and then like 5 hours later they're selling that token before the whole thing collapses. There's other people that are like more used to long-term, maybe Bitcoin style investing where they buy and hold Bitcoin over like 5-10 years. And both of those people, when I talk about investing in altcoins, think I'm absolutely off my rocker because the first group's like, why are you holding these tokens for like months or years on end? You should have sold on the pump, you missed it, and now this token is dead. It's never coming back because in their worldview with meme coins, that's typically how it works with meme coins. The other group of people who's maybe a little bit longer term minded, they're maybe a little bit more conservative with their investing. They're worried more about risk and potential downside. They're like, why would you invest in this token? There's a really solid chance this thing drops by 90%. There's a really low likelihood this thing lasts over the next decade. It just seems wildly irresponsible to be investing in tokens like this. It's just stupid. Both of those groups are investing wildly different than people like me invest. Which is why when those groups of people come into the altcoin space, they really struggle to actually make money because they don't understand how to play the altcoin space. The approach that I'm taking is more of a venture capital or a VC seed style approach when it comes to investing in altcoins. And if you've been watching my channel for the last couple of years, you've probably heard me say the same thing maybe a million times. When I'm investing into altcoins, I assume out of 10 investments, 7 of the 10 will go to absolute zero. 1 out of those 10 will do okay, 1 will do good, and hopefully 1 will do great. So great that it'll cover the loss of the 7 that went to zero and then make me a fortune on top of that. And as absurd as that might sound to somebody who's not used to investing or not, especially not used to investing in the crypto space, that formula has consistently worked for me since 2020. I have made a lot of like a stupid amount of money utilizing that formula. First off, because the 7 of the 10 actually never go to zero in most cases. It is very rare for a crypto token to actually go to zero. It has happened, it does happen, but it's like stupid rare. It's also not always the case that 7 of the 10 actually end up doing poorly. It depends on the season. During the last couple of years when we haven't had like a super bullish environment for alts, that has been basically the rule. 7 out of 10 have done like either okay or gone down 40 to 70. It's just in some rare cases, 90%. Actually, most of them are not going down 90%. Most of the time, if they're dropping, it's like 60, 70%. One of them ends up doing okay. So maybe it goes up 100, 200%, like it underperforms Bitcoin. One of them does great. So like slightly outperforms Bitcoin. And then one of them does phenomenally. It like massively outperforms Bitcoin, covers the losses that I made in the other 7 and makes a small fortune on top of it. And this is exactly how like VC seed investors operate. They're not assuming that every company that they, invest some money into is going to succeed. They assume that the majority of those startups are going to fail because that's what the majority of startups do. They fail, they don't succeed. So they're assuming they're not going to see a good portion of their money actually come to fruition. Instead, they operate off the law of large numbers, that it's going to be a small percentage of those investments that end up making them the majority of their profits. And the reason this is so important is because most people don't have like this framework when they're coming into altcoin investing. So they'll invest in some altcoins, or actually most of the time what they'll do is they'll invest like the vast majority of their money in like one or two altcoins. And if they get maybe stupid lucky, they end up doing good. But in most cases, like that, whatever altcoin they had a massive amount of conviction in doesn't end up doing well. And they end up losing the vast majority of their funds because they didn't spread out their risk. I've learned from experience over the last couple of years that you could have a token that you have like max conviction in. You're like, oh my gosh, I just found a token that's going to make me a billionaire. Like this token is going to the moon. I know for an absolute fact you could find that thing and be wrong. All the time, no matter how good you are in investing in the crypto space, just because you believe a token's going to go up, and just because honestly, like you could do the research right, and just because the numbers and everything lines up, you're like, oh my gosh, this token really is the chosen token. You can still be wrong. Like there's just so many things that could go wrong in the crypto space. You don't know. You can't account for those things. So you have to, on some level, spread out your risk. Otherwise, you're being stupid. Like you're playing poker and you're going all in on a hand you think is good, but you don't know what's going to get laid out on the table. I've given this analogy like an endless amount of times, but I really want it to like drill into people's heads because they're just not getting. I don't understand why people are not getting this. Risk management is the name of the game. You have to manage your risk. You cannot expect everything that you throw money into to go up. You have to account for the fact that you're going to have a massive amount of losses out of those tokens you invest into. And the way you win is by having a strategy that accounts for those losses and still makes money. Now, I mentioned earlier that it does depend on the season. Like the last couple of years have not been as bullish. But when you get to a season like 2021 or 2017 or 2013, where the underlying fundamentals of the market are just liquidity positive, there's a ton of liquidity sloshing around the global financial system that's pushing asset prices higher, the dynamics switch quite a bit to where, from my experience during that season, it's more often like almost the reverse, to where 7 out of 10 of your investments are doing great, some of them phenomenally, like making more money than you could ever imagine in your life. And it's really like 3 or 2 of them that end up failing or rugging or something. And it often it's just a mistake you made because you're moving so fast because the market's moving so fast. It's just a lot easier to like throw money at the wall and make money in those environments because in general, a lot of things are going up at the same time. And the reason that's important is because that's what I call harvest season. Okay, so I mentioned seed investing. I'm planting seeds with a lot of these alts, and I'm planning on harvesting them when the underlying liquidity environment is more bullish and those things come to fruition. I'm not expecting all of these alts to come to fruition a month later or 2 months later or 3 months later. I'm not like a meme coin trader over here, or I'm not a narrative rotation trader where I'm just like playing a small burst of time where it's a 1 month, 2 month period where I'm hoping this thing will go up. In some cases, some of these alts I'm playing are a very, very long-term game. I'm literally looking ahead and I'm saying, if we got like a 2021 or 2017 type of environment, doesn't have to be as bullish as 2021 was in terms of liquidity. But if we got like anything even close to those environments, what would this alt do? Do I expect this alt to, like if I could take this alt and just drop it into 2021, what would the expected outcome be from today's market cap to where it could potentially go? If the answer is, I think it would go astronomically higher, then that is a bet that I'm willing to make. And I'm willing to hold that thing for a long period of time until those underlying conditions are present or until something fundamentally changes about the project that makes it so I'm no longer bullish on the project. But if you're watching my channel and you see me talk about a token and you're like, oh my gosh, that's an amazing play. You jump into it and like 2 weeks later, it's like 30% lower. And you're like, oh my gosh, pump and dump, such a scam. You're so stupid. Like you don't know what you're talking about. Then you don't understand fundamentally what I'm doing with my portfolio. The majority of my long-term conviction plays that I've been talking about on my channel for the last 2 years, I have not sold a single token. I've been only adding to those positions because, again, they're positioned for alt season. They're not short-term plays. There have been a couple of them that I have ended up selling off, but it's because the fundamentals for that project ended up changing or deteriorating, where I was no longer bullish about that project. But the ones I've been talking about forever, RSC, Una, Winner, Akash, like I have not reduced those positions at all. Like I have not sold a single token. I have only added to those positions because I'm a diehard believer that alt season is coming. It's just a matter of the right underlying fundamentals coming into place. And that when the alt season arrives, tokens like that, maybe not all of them, maybe all of them don't succeed, but some of these tokens like these are going to do really, really well, which is going to allow me to make a massive amount of money. And I'm willing to take that bet. Like that's the deal I'm signing. This is the bet that I'm making, is that this is going to end up working out for me. Now, I could be wrong. I could be radically wrong, and I'll lose a lot of money if that's the case. But I'm not judging that over a 2-month or a 2-week period. I'm judging that by when alt season arrives. And if you want to know when I believe alt season is going to arrive, not just like my personal like gut take, but like a full like macro breakdown of when like all of these things point towards alt season arriving. I have a video I put out a couple weeks back or a week back, I don't remember when, where I went into a lot of detail as to when I believe alt season is going to arrive based on a bunch of those macro factors if you want to check it out. But even if you disagree or you don't think alt season is coming or whatever, I hope that at least helps you understand the way that I'm navigating that first bucket or that first strategy. Now, my second strategy is more one that's a lot more people are familiar with, and that's more of a short-term narrative rotation strategy. And this is actually a recent update to my strategies in the way I'm managing my portfolio. I haven't been doing this for the last 2 years. This is something I did in the 2021 bull run because things were moving so quick. But this is not something I've been doing for the last 2 years. And that's actually been a mistake with some of these really, really high risk positions where I've ended up losing quite a bit of money on those positions and then later abandoning them because they ended up, the fundamentals for that project ended up, going nowhere. Where if I'd applied this short-term risk management strategy, I would have ended up saving myself losing a lot of money. And basically the way that this works, it's really, really simple. Every time one of these really high risk positions, so like one, it's not like a max conviction position for me. I know it's high risk. I know it's in season because of a narrative or etc. Maybe it's a really tiny market cap. Anytime it doubles or triples, I take my initial investment, the initial amount of money I put in to that project, I take it off the table. I take it out of that project, I sell that off, and I keep it somewhere else. And then if I still believe in that project and I think it's going to do well over a long period of time, maybe I'm waiting for all season, I'll let the project run. But now I have zero risk of actually losing money because I've taken my initial position out of that project. And oftentimes these aren't projects that I talk about on my channel. And that specifically has to do with the fact that these are usually quicker term plays, meaning I'm investing in this thing. I know maybe it's going to go up for the next couple of weeks, but I don't know if it's going to continue to go up after that. So I need to be able to move quick. And one of my rules with my channel is anytime I make a video about a project, especially if it's a small project that I know that my video can influence the market cap of that project, I can't sell for a month. I have like a special rule for myself. If I make a content about a project, I won't sell that project. I won't sell a single token for at least a month. And that's because even during the 2021 bull run, when I talk about a project, typically by 2 weeks, the pump from that project had worn off. And then even on top of that, when Donald Trump launched his meme coin and he didn't talk about it for a couple weeks, you watch that pump wear off. So if the president of the United States, Donald Trump, can't keep his meme coin pumping for a month straight, then certainly a small video from me isn't going to keep that thing pumping for a month straight. Anyways, because I have that rule, I have to be really selective about the tokens that I talk about on my channel because I know that I'm making this commitment that when I talk about it, I'm not going to sell it for at least a month. And this strategy so far has actually been extremely lucrative. I haven't been doing it with like meme coins or anything like that. I've actually primarily been focused on the Believe app ecosystem and launches from there. They have been doing really, really well, at least if you catch them early enough. I've been able to ride them high enough to where I could take my initial profit out of them and then end up keeping the rest running or not. My third bucket or my third way I allocate money in the crypto space is a little bit more confusing than those first two buckets. And I know those first two buckets might have been already really confusing, but this third one, it like takes the cake on confusion. And that's because it's more of a jumbled collection of like different things I do with my money. You guys have seen a lot of my experiment videos where I try a lot of different ways to like make passive income in the crypto space. And I see if like they work or they don't work. Like, is this too good to be true? Is this not? And over time, I found a couple different things that actually do work pretty decently well. The first one is the Stoic meta strategy, which I've talked about before, that surprisingly has done like a stupid well over the course that I've done it. I started with $30,000 at literally it was January 2023. Okay, so perfect timing. That's stupid lucky with the timing. But I started with 30,000, and since then it's become over $200,000. And it's basically like a really Bitcoin heavy strategy, but it uses like a little bit of leverage sometimes, a little bit of shorting sometimes, and like all these there's like 200 sub strategies it could use. And over the 2-year period, it has ended up outperforming Bitcoin. So it's like sort of like holding Bitcoin, but like you do a little bit better is the way the strategy works. And that one has been pretty lucrative up until this point. So that's one of those kind of passive income sort of strategies. The second one is my own cooler loan strategy, which I did around October, late 2023 at some point. It's right when they came out with cooler loans. It was like a stupid stupid, like obvious good play at the time. The play has changed since, okay? So don't go throw your money into this play at current terms and dates. But at the time, it was like 90% loan to value ratio. You could buy Geom, lock it up in cooler loans, no liquidation. Okay, there's literally no liquidation. It's absurd. And you got 90% loan to value. So if you put in $100,000, you got $90,000 out in stable coins. A lot of people underestimate how smart that team is because they just think it's a Ponzi. But to be fair, everyone said Bitcoin was a Ponzi too for like the first 10 years of its existence until they figured out, oh my gosh, this is actually pretty awesome. I think that's going to ultimately be the case with something like Geom because the economics of their entire ecosystem is like top tier. Okay, these guys are like ridiculously underestimated. But I won't waste too much time on this because all this has changed since then. Now they have cooler loans V2. A lot's changed. If you got in at that time, it was like a crazy good deal. I'm still in at those terms. But since then, I don't know what it's at currently. You'd have to look it up and figure that out. But that's like an example of like another kind of like opportunity. If you got like eagle eyes, hawk eyes on the crypto space, and you're watching opportunities like this pop up. In the last strategy that I'm using or experimenting with right now is my 2-week model strategy. I used AI to build out this model that tries to predict the price Bitcoin, like its highest point it'll be over the next 2 weeks. And kind of the mean average it'll be over the next 2 weeks. And I've had some successes with my 60-day model, which did an amazing job. I'm in trial 2 of that. And my first 2-week model prediction was a success. And so now I'm experimenting with this as a trading strategy. I put $10,000 into it to see kind of how it plays out. But I'm still really early on that. That might not end up working. That could end up being a dud or not. But that's, again, another example of like kind of this passive income approach you could take to crypto in order to make money. But maybe let's say you've been listening to all this and you're like, none of this is for me. Okay, I don't want to do the passive income kind of thing. I don't believe in alt season, or that's too risky for me. I don't want to do that. And I'm not into the short-term strategy thing. That takes too much work. I don't know the crypto space enough or whatever. For most people, they want something really easy, casual, and what they end up doing is just like they put their money into Bitcoin. Okay, they stick most of their money into Bitcoin. I say that like for most people, honestly, the best approach is probably something like 80% Bitcoin, 20% altcoins or something like that. But for a lot of people, they just want 100% Bitcoin. They throw 100% of their money into Bitcoin. And that has worked out really well for them. But there is actually a major risk to this strategy that most people aren't aware of that you should know about if you're doing this approach. And that is, maybe you don't believe in alts. Maybe you don't believe alt season is coming. You think it's like Santa Claus. It's not going to happen, whatever. But let's assume for a second that I'm right and alt season happens. This is a mistake that most people make when taking that approach. Alt season comes, and these people that are having Bitcoin, they've been so happy. They've been making so much money in the off season. They did this in 2021. They've been making so much money in the off season, but then they start seeing these altcoins do really well. Some are doing 1,000%. Some of them are doing 10,000%. Some of them are doing like just astronomical life-changing gains. Okay, you see your neighbor, little Timmy, he's like 12 over next door, and he just made $1 million trading some altcoin, and you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing holding this Bitcoin? This doesn't make any sense. I need to be trading some altcoin. This is a tale as old as time. And I've seen so many people make this mistake. The problem is what you'll end up doing is you'll end up stalling, moving your Bitcoin into alts until like well late into the season when like it's like peak mania. And then you'll take all this money you've made this money patiently waiting in Bitcoin. You'll take it, you'll dump it into alts at like the peak of the market, and you'll lose everything. I promise you, if you think this is not going to happen to you, if alt season comes, like I'm saying, and I'm telling you, it is inevitable. Alt season is coming. But whether you believe it or not, you should at least take this risk seriously. If it happens, do you have the right psychology? Do you have a plan in place in a strategy to make sure you do not FOMO into alts? Because if your approach is you're just going to buy and hold Bitcoin, you need to stick to that approach. Either that, or you need to set aside, hey, if I'm going to FOMO, I'm going to take 10% of my portfolio, or 5% of my portfolio, or 20% of my portfolio. Have a plan in place ahead of time so that you don't do something stupid, because I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 people will do this when alt season comes. So there's nothing wrong with that strategy. That's a great approach. You know what? Yeah, for some people, that is honestly what they need to do. That's the only way you're going to make money, okay? But you need to stick the course if that's your plan. If that's your plan, stick the course. Stay in your lane. Know what you're doing. And if you know you're gonna get FOMO too bad, if little Timmy's making millions next door, then you need to have like your like kind of like a cheat day in like working out. This is your like little cheat altcoin bag. Okay, lock it down, 5%, 10%, whatever you want to do. Probably gonna lose it all, okay, because you don't know what you're doing. But whatever, like have a release valve so that you don't make a painful mistake. And then there's the last bucket of you guys. You don't believe alt season is coming, which is probably most of you guys, because right now most people don't believe alt season is coming, which is ironically bullish because if most people did believe alt season was coming, they would be allocated into crypto, and therefore alt season for sure would it be coming because everyone would be already have front ran it. You actually need to be in a place where most people don't believe alt season is coming to get all season. Okay, so that's my little disclaimer up front there. But let's say you really believe this. Like you're like, hey, no matter what you say, I'm not buying the snake oil you're selling, buddy. I'm not getting into alts. All season is not coming. But what do I do? Like, how do I play this market? Okay, if this is you and you're like, for whatever reason you don't want to get into Bitcoin and you don't want to get into all this other stuff, you're probably in this more like a long-term alt season or long-term alt bucket. Okay, you're investing in like an emerging tech sector. You want to like invest into like Ethereum or Solana or whatever, Sui or whatever. And you want to do it for like the next 5-10 years. That's kind of your play because you don't think all season's coming, but you think crypto in general is going to trend up for the next decade. That is also a completely rational, okay position for you to take. There's nothing wrong with this approach to crypto. But I will highlight it's an extremely difficult position to take. You really need to know what you're doing and understand the space because it changes so quickly and like so much is happening right now. ZK Tech is about to be a massive disruptor to like these big generalized chains. I believe that. Maybe you don't believe that, but you certainly should view that as a risk. Solana was the golden child. Everyone says Solana's going to the moon. It's going to go to $1,000. And it really felt like that for a season. And now suddenly, fast forward like a year, people aren't so confident, right, anymore. Like now people are like, oh, maybe Sui's going to do it. Hyperliquid's making some moves. Looks like Pump Fund's about to launch its own token. Maybe they end up launching their own chain. What is that going to mean for Solana? My point is that the space changes fast. And making these longer term investments is very difficult because you're trying to guess where the future is going to go with crypto and what's going to happen. And that's really hard for anyone to guess. Like, the people that are the most connected into the space really struggle to guess where the future is going to go. My basic point is you have to keep your eye on the ball if this is the approach you're taking. And you really should have some sort of strategy about so you don't get stuck married to your bags about how you're going to get out of these positions if things change. Are you going to be able to sell that position when that starts to become obvious? And for most people, you're not going to be able to. It's going to be really difficult. So maybe when you think that might be happening, maybe you sell a third and then you allocate that somewhere else. And then when you really are like, actually, this really does feel like it's going nowhere, you sell the second third. And then when you're conclusively like Solana's not going anywhere, you sell the last third. And I'm not saying Solana's not going anywhere. It'll probably do good. That's just an example that I'm using. By the way, if you are interested in an update on like what I'm currently holding in my portfolio, some of you guys might be, some of you guys might not be. I am going to be releasing a video coming out soon, somewhere in the next couple weeks, where I'm going to dive into like my entire portfolio, what I'm investing into right now, etc. Be on the lookout for that. The overall takeaway I want to leave people with, though, is your strategy matters. And investing in crypto is actually really difficult. And if you don't give it the respect it deserves as far as like the difficulty level when it comes to making money in the crypto space, you're going to lose money. But if you do have a strategy and you put in the work to outwork the rest of the market, you can make a ridiculous amount of money investing in the crypto space. If you're interested in joining the Obsidian Council, I post every time I buy and sell. I have my entire portfolio in there. I also do weekly video market updates on macro and alt season and everything in between, as well as currently I'm posting pretty much everyday updates from my 2-week model and its prediction as to where the market is going over the next 2 weeks. Currently, the Obsidian Council is closed to new members, but if you want to join the waitlist, there's a link in the description of this video. As always, none of this is investment advice. I am obviously not your financial advisor, and you should always do your own research. If this video is helpful, make sure to hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, including my portfolio update coming out in the next couple weeks, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell next to it to be notified each time I release a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.